like a drop in the sand, like a worm in the storm. A hungry hunger inside of me. I can't be reborn. I'm a monster, spreading hate, stealing time. I'm a monster, laying beds when it's cloudy. Oh, pilgrim inside of me. Tell me, what's my remedy? I'm a fraud, call me a liar, a true psychopath, don't love me. Oh, when you're lost, take your trust, yeah, that's me. Ooh. Like an onion, I'll liberate your tears, your sweet passion, sweet fears. Oh, you're in good hands. They say I'm gentle, so don't be scared. I'm a monster. Every turn has its thrill. My game, my will. Pilgrim, don't let me, okay? No, I wanna be given the blame. Hold up, wait a minute, what you're talking about? Hold up, wait a minute, what you're talking about? Wanna be given the blame? I'm a fraud. 'Cause I'm a true psychopath. When you're lost, take your trust. That's me. That's so sick. I'm a fraud, call me a liar, a true psycho. Ooh. I'm a fraud, call me a liar, a true psychopath, don't love me. Oh, when you're lost, take your trust, yeah, that's me. Oh, that's me, that's me, that's me. Yes, I'm a fraud. Call me a liar, a true psychopath.
Hey. It's a good thing I stopped sharing when I did, because the next song that was about to play on there was Still from Ghetto Boys, which I personally love, but it's not for everybody. So that's a good thing. And I forgot that I don't actually have to go to my YouTube channel to play that intro. I have to do it for Letitia, and because it's too big of a file or whatever, and so StreamYard won't hold it. And so I couldn't remember, and I was like, why can't I find? I don't know. It was just I haven't played it in a while because we've mainly been doing Letitia stuff, so I'm rusty on my own damn intro. But now that I'm looking at that intro, I see some edits I want to make, but I'm going to leave it alone because I got other stuff I got to do. So maybe someday, one of these days. Let me say hi to you guys. Thank you guys all for being here. Hey, Nana Banana. Hey, A Million Sparkles. Nadine, my boo. Hi, babe. Paris. Good to see you. Did I already say hi? Yes, I think I did. Yes, to A Million Sparkles. Hey, Kimberly. Hey, Kez Chick. Hey, Victoria. Good to see you. It's been a while, Kez Chick. I'm glad you're here. Let me see. Who else we got? Hi, Sam. Hi, Neat Noodle. Good to see you guys. Rainbow Mom, hey. Kaleida Hope. Let me see who else. I saw somebody say hi to Shamita, but I don't see her. Hi, Grandma Cece. Good to see you, babe. Let me see. I think I got everybody. Victoria, Bree, Andrea, hello, and Kaylin. What up, friend? Whatever, Heather. Hi. Is this the flip of Heather whatever? Because I used to have one of the girls that used to come in the chat, hey, Rainbow Mom, was Heather whatever. And I don't know if you're the same person and you just flipped your name or whatever. But either way, I like it. Whatever, Heather. God, what's your damage, Heather? All right. I can't say the other part I want to say because it's only 6 minutes in, but maybe I'll say it later. Oh, I have hey, Emily, good to see you. I have a very, very, very eclectic taste in music. It's hard for me. There's only a very, very few bands that I can put their CD in and listen to it all the way through. I usually have to mix it up because I can't. That's just my brain is messy, just like my videos. So, oh, it's not you. Well, that's all right. Welcome in. We love new people. So you'll like it here. We're a cool chat. We really are. We get along really well. Nobody does anything. And what happens on the ward stays on the ward. Right, you guys. Hey, Brandy. Oh, the Ghetto Boys are my favorite. My favorite. Like when I clean the house, which nobody's here now to witness this anymore because the kids are gone, but Saturday is cleaning the house day. It used to be. And because Sunday was the only day my husband had off. And so I didn't want to, do all that kind of stuff. When he was off, I wanted it to be a chill day. And, so I would do like the big cleaning, like, mopping the floors, the bathtub, stuff like that on Saturdays. And, I would listen to music. And then, when phones came out where you could just play it, right, then I had my earbuds in and the kids would get irritated with me because I can't help it if I know the words I sing along. And my playlist is really, it's got a lot of Eazy-E, a lot of Ghetto Boys, a lot of NWA, a lot of Ice Cube. And the fact that I could do the whole song and they would just be sitting there embarrassed, just really embarrassed that these words were coming out of their mom's mouth, especially that I'll never forget it. Me and my sister were listening to music out on her porch, and my nephews and little mini Bendy were in the yard, and Give Me That Nut came on, and sister and I were singing along, and all three of them stopped and looked over at us. And yeah, it was a moment. You kind of had to be there. But okay, let's get to what we're supposed to be getting to, because I know the jibber jabber. I'll go on and on about stuff that has nothing to do with anything. So hang on, let me get this this video pulled up right here. Let's see. Where is my friend? Here we go. All right. Now, I want you guys, if you're going to be following along with me on the trial, because I'm planning to do it every night. Now, I can't say I want to take turns with Allie because, this was something that she and I had planned to cover when it was going to be a joint trial and then all of those things, right? And so we'll probably take turns on each other's channels or whatever. But the way that I'm doing it on my channel is, even though, like, now that song's in my head. Give me that, give me that, give me that. No. Oh God. Anyway, now that technically the trial starts when jury selection starts. That's technically day one. So I just labeled my lives witness testimony day one, because like this is obviously day what? They did it all last week, so that's 5 days plus Monday. So 6. So this would be day 7 of the trial, technically speaking. But I don't, everybody is like, nobody could, I mean, I paid attention to the jury selection like in and out, but I couldn't, it was hard for me to stay focused. Hey, Sleuth Mom, good to see you, babe. Hey, Angie, good to see you. So anyway, I did pop over to difficult can't speak, research today to bruh. All right, hold on. I got to get to the right spot. Anyway, I popped over and watched a little bit of opening statements over on Difficult Research's channel. As if you guys don't know, Sleuth Mom is also covering streaming the trial, and she has a great channel. Difficult Research is Kay and Larry's daughter. They both do fantastic jobs. And I plan to support both of those ladies. I highly recommend them. If one of the mods would please drop Difficult Research's channel link. I cannot talk today. Channel link and Sleuth's Mom's channel link. I'm going to add them. It's on my list of things to do to the Nightbot, so that we can, so that you guys don't have to do all that stuff. Now, that being said, I did watch the opening statements, as I said. But I'm really more curious, just before we get started, about what you guys thought of the opening statements. Let's start with what you guys thought of. Thank you, Shamega. What did you guys think of the state's opening statements? Because I have to be frank, I didn't get to listen to the very beginning of the states. I came in as they were finishing, and then they went to break, and then I listened in on the defenses. Give me just 1 second. I have somebody at the door. I'll let you know when I open it which cat it is. It's probably both of them, but hold on a sec. Okay, so as I suspected, it was both of them, although Mac was kind of hiding around the corner a little bit when I opened the door. Although he's very rude, he went in first. And as he walked by, Alice popped him on the butt. So we're off to a great and fantastic start. I'm sure there will be skibbity paps later in the show for everybody. Yes, they knock now. They've gotten civilized, Nadie. What had happened is I figured out how this door, because this is little mini Bendy's old room, and you have to actually pull it all the way shut, because before, these fools were serving me with the whole no knock just busting in, and now they got some couth. and they are knocking. So yay for Alice and Mac. All right, so let me add this to the stream, and I'm glad I'm doing this too. I kind of feel like, honestly, both sides were a little lackluster, in my opinion. I don't know what I was expecting, but I felt like it was kind of, it was less passionate this time around from the state against Chad than it was against Lori, and I was a little taken aback. Shameda, ladies first, Mr. Mac. You're not a lady. You're nothing but a sister. Well, she wasn't a sister this morning. Let me tell you what had happened. She has a little side piece. It's a fluffy orange tabby out there that hangs out on my porch. And old Mac busted one Alice and in the window with her Sancho, and Mac got all puffy, and it was a whole big issue this morning. So yes, it was a big deal. I don't think he regards her as a sister. I think that's his woman, and he was very upset that she was chatting it up with homeboy. So yeah, that was an issue. Anywho, that's not what we're here to talk about. I should make a channel just for these jokers, because they do say don't say some crazy shit, but they do really crazy shit. Anyway, I just felt like it was a little lackluster on both of their parts. Listen, I didn't have real high expectations for Pryor, and here's why. It's not, I mean, this is going to be an incredibly difficult case to defend. They have some really, really damning evidence against Chad. And, you know, Pryor did his best through jury selection to get it down to the jurors that he felt would listen to his side, because what he doesn't want as a defense attorney, first of all, if Chad's convicted, he faces the death penalty. And I want to be very clear about this. The reason that they did not take the death penalty off the table for Chad is because the reason they took the death penalty off the table for Lori, that was the judge. And the judge did it because the state missed a deadline. And so it was basically his only way of really admonishing the state, because Lori had not waived her right to a speedy trial. And so, that's what happened. So what Pryor wanted to make sure and get across to potential jurors was, listen, it would be unreasonable for me to expect you guys not to have heard anything about this case ever, but I need for you to pay attention to what's going on in this courtroom. And just because Lori was convicted, don't assume Chad's guilt. And he's not wrong for saying that. That is how the system is supposed to work. I, however, am not a juror, and so I don't have to, withhold or reserve judgment, or whatever until the very end of the trial. I'm going to be judging the whole damn way through, and that's how I feel about it. And I'm waiting very patiently for the Melanies to get on the stand. So, and this is a good point, what Sleuth Mom says. She says, I'm wondering how much of that is our opinions, though, because of most people's severe dislike for Lori. Is Chad the lesser evil, so the whole trial may feel less passionate? That's an interesting point, and I think there's probably something to do with that. Although I'm not really buying the whole, and I don't know another way to put this other than basically this Chad's defense is the who made me do it. I did it for the Nookie, which I don't even really like Limp Bizkit, and I didn't really want to use that, but most people would know that one. So that's why I put it in there. But that's basically what the defense is. Like she, hoodwinked him, she bamboozled him, led him astray, like it's ridiculous. He already had some of these ideas and thoughts in his brain before Lori ever came on the scene. And frankly, my opinion always has been that that neither one of them is the lesser of two evils, that they're both equally evil, and they are the perfect storm that came together at the right time. It's sort of like what gets tornadoes to happen. It's a mass of warm air meeting with a mass of cold air. Boom, you get really nasty, severe thunderstorms and hail and potential tornadoes. And that's what they are. And the irony of it all, which I don't even think that's true irony, is the fact that Chad refers to his part as the storm. So gross. Ugh. All right. So without further ado, let's hear these opening statements, shall we? Okay.
Hey, address the jury. I think we do have one.
Well, let me turn on the closed captions. Closed captions are not available. What the hell?
May I proceed your phone? Yes, it's for the HDMI. May I proceed your? Yes, sure. Two dead children buried in the defendant Chad Daybell's backyard in September of 2019. The next month, his wife is found dead in their marital bed. 17 days after the death of his wife, Tammy Daybell, this defendant is photographed laughing and dancing on a beach in Hawaii at his wedding. It's Lori Vallow, a woman who was his mistress and the mother of the children buried in the graves on his property. 3 dead bodies. This defendant believed he had a right beyond the ordinary. When he had a chance at what he considered his rightful destiny, he made sure that no person or no law would stand in his way. His desire for sex, money, and power led him to pursue those ambitions. And this pursuit led to the deaths of his wife and Lori's 2 innocent children. Chad Daybell is an author who wrote books about the apocalypse. During this trial, you will hear a story more troubling. And the story is real. Chapter 1. The defendant was a seemingly ordinary man. You'll see that he craved significance. He worked in journalism and he worked as a sexton in a graveyard. He married his wife Tammy in 1990 after meeting at Brigham Young University, and they settled in Utah. As a full-time homemaker and mother, Tammy's love for her family was boundless. Together, Tammy and the defendant started a small publishing company, which Tammy supported in many ways. They had 5 children together. They moved to Idaho, where Tammy became a beloved school librarian. She was devoted to service, her community, and her faith. But for this defendant, that ordinary existence was not enough. Chapter 2. Lori Vallow was a homemaker from Arizona. Your Honor, this mic just... Sorry, Mr. Let's see if we get a replacement mic. I got it working now. Okay. I noticed that the PowerPoint is not up. Yeah, I think your mic's off. Yeah. Okay, I didn't turn it off this time, so you might have a bad battery.
Hey, cement shoes. Oh, it won't skip if you're not on the page, Jen. Come on, get it together, Gira.
Screen as well. Your Honor, it's up on the screen, and it's plugged into the HDMI. I'm not sure why it's not that. Let's see if we can get some.
Here we go. Little technical difficulties.
Sorry. Can I proceed?
Hey,
Yeah,
Bushy.
that's still not sure.
Good to see you, babe.
Check. Okay, thanks. Apologies for the interruption, writing down. Chapter 2. Lori Vallow was a homemaker from Arizona. She was married to her fourth husband, Charles Vallow, and she was the mother to Tylee Ryan and JJ Vallow.
Hey, Laura Bean. Sorry, babe, I missed you coming in. I just wanted to say hello. All right, here we go.
Tylee was a normal, vibrant teenage girl. She loved her friends. You'll hear that she loved her Jeep. She loved Chipotle. She loved her little brother, JJ. JJ was a 7-year-old boy on the autism spectrum. He required extensive special care and need. He loved his sister. You'll hear about a pivotal date that set in motion the deaths of Tammy, Tylee, and JJ. October 26, 2018. That was the day when Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow met at a religious conference in St. George, Utah, where they were introduced by a mutual acquaintance. At this time, both still married to other spouses. That introduction set in motion the reality you're going to hear about. We know what happened next through the defendant's own words. You'll hear. Though both married, Chad and Lori began to have an affair. You will hear excerpts from the defendant's extended text messages to Lori that reveal his mindset and his motivations. In his thirst for sex, power, and money, Chad created an alternate reality where they called themselves James and Elena, names that Chad claimed were from past lives they had put together. The defendant's text messages reveal their story of lust and their plan for a future together. Chad Daybell wrote that upon meeting Lori Vallow, he experienced a happiness unmatched by anything else in his 50 years. He was captivated by her appearance, so much so he said she was out of his league. You will hear evidence in his own words, how he was taken by her beauty and spoke about their sexual encounters on many occasions. More than anything else, Chad's obsession with Lori was rooted in her adoration for him. She was the mirror reflecting the grandeur he saw in himself. He called her an exalted goddess. He told her in writing that she had returned to Earth to perform a special mission. And part of that mission included being with him. They soon came together and turned their dreams into a plan for the future, one free from what they called obstacles. And those obstacles were Tylee, JJ, and Tammy. Chapter 3. You'll hear that in the world that Chad and Lori planned for themselves, they identified those who stood in the way of their dream as dark. Their spouses, Lori's own children, and any who opposed them were labeled sometimes as dark spirits or even zombies. This was more than an alleged belief of right and labor. The evidence will show that it was a convenient narrative that dehumanized people who stood in their way and who were labeled as obstacles. This narrative gave them the pretext to remove people from this world for their own good. Chad and Lori preached that only through spiritual intervention, what they sometimes call casting, sometimes through burning, or even through death, that these dark spirits be cleansed. Enter Alex Cox, Lori's devoted brother. Chad and Lori manipulated Alex with promises of spiritual rewards. They wielded their influence over Alex, drawing him into their plotting and planning of their own future. After the deaths of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy, Chad Daybell gave Alex a blessing. This blessing was reported by Lori, who was present. And in that blessing, he said to Alex, "You have earned the privilege to be a member of their exclusive religious group." And he also said to him, "You have already assisted us in ways that can never be repaid." But you will also see other text messages. Chad and Lori discussed more earthly concerns, that Alex could be the one to implicate them, Alex knew this as well. Shortly before he died, on December 12th, 2019, he told his wife, Zuana Pastens, who you will hear from, he was afraid he was going to be Chad and Lori's fallback. Chapter 4. Once their calculated plan was devised, it only took months to execute and remove perceived obstacles in Chad Daybell's path to a new life. Charles Vallow, Lori's husband, who was labeled as dark by the defendant, was shot and killed by Alex Cox in Arizona. Lori stood to gain $1 million, money that could fund Chad and Lori's future. Yet following Charles's death, Lori Vallow awaited a $1 million life insurance payout that never came, only to learn that the beneficiary was no longer her. Upon learning she would not receive that insurance money, Lori would text Chad, "I'll still get the $4,000 a month from SS, meaning Social Security." Chad replied to her in a text that read, "It will be interesting to see if it got changed after he had 2 bullets in his chest." Tylee Ryan, also branded dark and a zombie, was last seen on September 8, 2019. Subsequent investigations revealed the horrifying truth. Her remains, charred and dismembered, were found in a grave on Chad Daybell's property. Without Charles's $1 million in insurance money to support them, Lori Vallow continued to illegally receive Tylee's Social Security benefits, provided after the death of Tylee's biological father, who had been Lori's third husband. According to this defendant, J.J. Vallow, Lori's son, was also possessed. After he was labeled as a dark entity, his fate was no less tragic than his sister's. His young life was also plain. Later, his bound body was discovered buried in Chad's backyard, his death by suffocation. Yet while JJ was missing, Lori continued to illegally receive JJ's Social Security benefit, money provided by Charles Vallow's dad. Tammy Daybell, a vivacious, healthy mother, was another individual labeled as a dark spirit to be removed. On October 9th of 2019, she reported being shot at night near her home by a man covered in black. She thought it was a paintball gun. On October 19th, 10 days later, she died in her own home with her husband present. This was soon after an increase in the value of her life insurance to more than $400,000. This defendant rapidly cashed in that life insurance and began looking for condos in Hawaii with Lori. You'll see the rental application he submitted for a couple with no kids. Medical examiners would later determine that the only reasonable explanation for Tammy's death was not of natural causes, but rather a homicide. In fact, you will hear from multiple witnesses that Chad predicted multiple times that Tammy would die of an early death. Chapter 5. 17 days after his wife's death, Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow got married and celebrated on a beach in Hawaii, symbolizing what he called their eternal union. Chad and Lori were preparing their wedding well before Tammy's death. Lori was shopping for wedding rings while Tammy was still alive. Now, without the earthly obstacles of spouses and young children, and with Tammy's insurance policy and the children's Social Security funds, they could live the life that Chad and Lori wanted. Nothing was going to stand in their way. Chapter 6. Unfortunately for this defendant, reality soon shattered their bliss. 2 things led law enforcement to his and Lori's door. On October 2nd, 2019, Lori Vallow's nephew-in-law, a man named Brandon Boudreaux, was shot at in Arizona by someone from what he believed was Tylee's Jeep. Law enforcement in Arizona investigating Brandon's shooting contacted law enforcement in Fremont County, Idaho, to look for Alex Cox and for Tylee's Jeep. And you'll hear that Jeep was later found in Rexford, Idaho, in Madison County. Meanwhile, J.J. Vallow's grandmother, concerned that she hadn't seen or heard from him in months, asked police for help. The police followed up and located Lori in Rexford, Idaho, where the police did a welfare check at Lori's apartment. Law enforcement arrived at Lori's door on November 26, 2019. When asked about Lori, Chad first told law enforcement he didn't know her very well, despite the fact that they were married and had been in a relationship for over a year. Lies by Lori to police about JJ and Tylee's whereabouts, and then a move to Hawaii, and Lori's unwillingness to present her children to law enforcement to prove their well-being led to her arrest and extradition. As Lori refused to produce her children, law enforcement continued their search for Tylee and JJ. During that search, they located a unique text message that this defendant, Chad Daybell, had sent to his wife, Tammy, on September 9th, 2019, which was the day after Tylee Bryant's last known appearance. You'll hear from the FBI agent who found that message, that this message seemed longer than his usual text to Tammy, and it had a more conversational tone. In that text, Chad claimed he had an interesting warning, that he'd shot a raccoon, that he'd buried it in what they call the pet cemetery, and that he'd had a fire on the property where he burned some wind debris. When law enforcement finally went to the defendant's property the following June, they didn't find a raccoon. They found Tylee's burnt remains that were buried in the pet cemetery. And they found JJ nearby, buried under a tree near a pond. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been told this would be a lengthy trial. You will hear from many witnesses. You will hear a lot of evidence. You're going to hear a lot of dates. The following is just a timeline of major events to help understand when these things took place. October 26, 2018, Chad and Lauren meet in St. George, Utah. July 11, 2019, Charles Vallow, Lori's husband, is shot and killed by Alex Cox. Between August 31st and September 1st, Lori, Alex Cox, and Tylee and JJ moved to Rexburg, Idaho, just a few miles south of the defendant's home. Tylee's last known sighting was September 8, 2019. The text I just spoke of about the raccoon was sent by the defendant to his wife September 9, 2019. JJ's last known sighting you'll hear about September 22nd. The attempted homicide of Brandon Boudreaux in Arizona was October 2nd. The shooting I mentioned of Tammy, the shooting at her, the unsuccessful shooting, October 9th, 2019. Tammy's death, October 19th, 2018. 17 days later, Chad and Lori married in Hawaii. Law enforcement did a welfare check looking for JJ November 26, 2019 in Rexburg, Idaho. November 26th and 27th, Chad and Lori leave town. June 9th, 2020, Tylee and JJ's remains are found on Chad's property. As I said, you're going to hear a lot of evidence from a lot of witnesses. And there's going to be kind of different groups of evidence you're going to hear from. You'll hear from law enforcement, some of whom will give you a broad overview of the investigation and what they did, how the search for Tylee and JJ drew to a case of murder. You'll hear how it began by people who knew Lauren and Chad, the James and Elena. You'll hear about the James and Elena story and about their relationship with each other and how they pursued their dream, their plan for a life together. You'll hear in the defendant's own words, people referred to as obstacles, how they need to be gotten rid of. You're going to hear financial evidence. You'll hear from an FBI forensic accountant and a detective, a Social Security administrative investigator who will talk about the finances involved in this case. You'll hear more from law enforcement, from multiple law enforcement agencies, the Rexburg Police, the Fremont County Sheriff's Department, the FBI, Social Security Administration, about the investigation into these crimes. You will see forensic evidence. You'll see DNA testing to identify the body of Tylee. You'll see DNA testing that showed DNA from Tylee was found on at least 2 tools in the defendant's shed. You'll hear digital evidence dealing with geolocation data tied to certain phones that were used in this case. You'll hear from Hawaii law enforcement about searches they performed in Hawaii on the defendant and his wife. And finally, you will hear many of this defendant's own words. You will hear voice recordings of this defendant. You'll hear recorded phone calls between him and his wife, Daybell. You'll read multiple texts that he and Lori sent back. Another text he sent. Chapter 9, what's unwritten. The defendant stands before you today, charged with multiple crimes. First-degree murder for the death of Tammy Daybell. First-degree murder for the death of Tylee Ryan. First-degree murder for the death of JJ Vallow. Conspiracy to commit murder of Tammy Daybell. Conspiracy to commit murder and grand theft by deception, the death of Tylee Ryan. Conspiracy to commit murder and grand theft by deception, for the death of J.J. Bell and insurance fraud. 2 dead children buried in this defendant's backyard. The next month, his wife, dead, in their bed. 17 days later, this defendant marries Lori Vallow. Members of the jury, days or probably weeks from now, when the evidence in this trial is fully unfolded, we will have the opportunity to speak with you again. And at that time, we will ask you to end this horrible narrative. Your verdict will be the link that writes the final chapter of this tragic saga, a chapter that delivers justice for Tammy, justice for JJ, and justice for Tyler. Thank you.
Okay. I mean, I know that motive isn't necessary, and so, but I guess from what Mr. Wood said is basically, it all came down to they wanted to be together. Lori and Chad wanted to be together, and the children and Charles and Tammy were nothing to them but obstacles. And it's really sad to hear any human being's life essentially whittled down to just that. Do you know what I mean? Like, Tammy was a mother, and a sister and a daughter, and Tylee was a young lady, just on the very brink of her whole world opening up, you know what I mean? And JJ was just a little vivacious boy who was, his life was just barely beginning. And just to have it whittled down to for them, this isn't anything negative about what Mr. Wood said, but this is how, he's explaining the mindset of Chad and Lori, and to just and Charles being a father and a grandfather and a son and a brother and an uncle, to have their lives whittled down to being nothing more than obstacles for Chad and Lori is just so gross to me, Oh, Stevie, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm glad. It's just gross to hear, and it's just ridiculous because and unnecessary. When you really break it down to really brass tacks, there was no need for any of these people to be murdered, period. Charles would have given Lori her divorce, and with the kids, there was especially no reason, because there were people that would have taken the kids, and they would, it's like Lori did the shit out of spite, and Chad went right along with her. So he, in my opinion, is just as guilty. And even though I know the facts of the case, right? We've known for a very long time. We sat this time last year, we were sitting through Letitia Stout and Lori Vallow's Daybell's trial, right? And like, we knew the grim truth, but hearing it again, it's just as infuriating as when I heard it the first time. Shelly Bean, I'm so sorry that they didn't give you a notification. Well, Lil Red says, I wonder how long he was unhappy in his marriage. He talked about her dying young before Lori entered the picture. There have been hints of Munchausen by proxy with Lori and Tylee. I think Chad, just in general, was an unhappy person. Hey, T. Adams. Oh, thank you, babe. I appreciate that. Thank you for being here and listening. Hey, hippie chick. If you guys are not getting notified, unsubscribe, resubscribe, and then turn the notifications to all. Sometimes you have to do that every so often, especially when there's been a YouTube update. So try that and see if it works. I forgot what I was saying. Oh boy, where was I? Oh, unhappy. Okay, so I watch Mormon Stories podcast, and I also watch Hidden True Crime. And Hidden True Crime has done a lot of interviews with family of Chad Daybell, his sister-in-law specifically. And it really seems like Chad, just generally speaking, was overall unhappy. He was like an unhappy person. He was basically the ne'er-do-well, if you will, in his family. Everybody else, his siblings were successful, and he just simply wasn't. Money was always tight, and it was a struggle. And I think that Chad was just always dissatisfied with his own existence. And I think that, I think that when he got a little bit of attention from his near-death stories, I think that that started something that was probably already in him, maybe that he didn't even know. It just started him down this path. This was the only way he was ever going to be anything to anybody. And I think that a lot of that has to do with we as human beings, no matter what your religion is or your belief system is, we all want to know what happens to us next. Where do we go? What will we be doing? What happens? And if anybody, has a story to tell about that, we human beings, it's just in our nature to listen. I think that Lori is highly manipulative. And I think that she does have mental health issues also. Although it's not a justification, it's certainly not an excuse. I think that, like I said, I think that these two were the perfect storm, honestly. Laura, sorry. I'm not sure if anybody is there for him. It's a little bit hard to see the gallery for me. I can't really see who's there. The last that I had heard, his kids still support him. But before I went live, I was reading an article about this trial and what potentially will be different in this case, as far as what's presented by both sides, and what the differences will be. And it was from a legal analyst and a lawyer. And the article was saying that where Lori's trial, she didn't put on any evidence, any witnesses, that they think that Chad will. And of course, it will be very different when it comes to the penalty phase, right? So first, they're going to have to deliberate whether or not they feel that he is guilty, right? So should they find him guilty, then they will move on to the penalty phase. And during the during the penalty phase, there will be witnesses presented for Chad, because they're going to want to try and save his life. And so they will present things that would be what they believe to be mitigating factors and why he should not receive the death penalty. I support whatever the family wants. If they are, if they're really wanting him to get the death penalty, I support it. If they're fine either way, I support it. That's their family, that's their loved ones. I think it would be far more of a punishment for Chad to get life without the possibility of parole, because it would afford him something. See, to me, the death penalty affords the perpetrators something that they did not give their victims, which is a death date. So they have the opportunity to say what they need to say to the people they need to say it to, where they didn't do that to their victims. Charles Vallow had no idea that his last day was going to be his last day. Neither did JJ, neither did Tylee, and neither did Tammy, but that's just me. That's how I feel about it. I feel like it's more of, I think it's more of a torturous punishment. I don't know how else to say it other than that, but I support whatever the families do, because at the end of the day, it was their family. And then for his kids, now I wondered that same thing too, Laura Bean, but if his children are on the witness list, then they would not be allowed to be in the courtroom, because you're not allowed to hear other witnesses testify prior to your testimony. So they would not be allowed to be in there until they were called, they testified and then they were done, and then they could come back. But by that point, the trial is going to be, damn near over. So that's what I was thinking, Carolina Hurtado. Adult children are on a defense witness list. The state will have the chance to at cross, which means that they cannot be in the courtroom right now. So even though they might be there, right, they're not allowed to be in the courtroom. So we'll see. All right. So moving on, let's get over here, because I know they took a break. Here's the break. Rewind a little bit. Here is the defense. All right. Here's the defense's opening statement.
Requires the defense ready to proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. May I have the post permission to enter the well?
You may.
Thank you.
And
Now, just so you guys know, I'm going to try to let the defense go all the way through. I just don't like interrupting it. I've got to let Nestor out, but I will be in the chat, so y'all best behave. All right, here we go.
can you check that microphone to make sure it is working? Okay. There we go.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As an introduction, I'm John Pryor. I'm the defense attorney for Mr. Daybell, and I'm from Meridian, Idaho. I'm an attorney from Meridian, Idaho, over here on the west side of the state. I want to talk to you a little bit today, and at my age, video presentations are not something that would come easy to me. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about my view of the case and the facts and evidence. And what's important are facts and evidence. I think that when we went through the jury selection process, we talked about facts and we talked about evidence. And the judge gave you an instruction to talk to you a little bit about you take into consideration the facts of this case and not be distracted by other things. Don't be distracted by speculation. Don't be distracted by guesses or assumptions or hunches. It all comes down to facts and evidence. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the facts and evidence of this case. Chad Daybell, and I'm learning this, and I've had some time to learn about this because it didn't come natural to me. But Chad Daybell went on what's called a mission early on in his life. And I guess what a mission is, and I'm not familiar with that, but I guess what a mission is they go away to a location and they talk to people about their religious beliefs. And Chad's faith, that was important as part of his faith. And when they returned from these missions, they started the process of moving on with their lives. And when Chad got back from doing his mission in New Jersey, he met Tammy Daybell. Another fact that I discovered, and you'll hear a little bit about, is that Chad had an extended engagement, had an extended by his faith standards romance before they got married. Chad and Tammy dated for approximately 6 months. And what I understand is by their nature, 6 months is an extended dating process before you end up getting married. So after 6 months, they got married. They were married in Utah and proceeded then to have children. They have 5 children, now all 5 adult children. At some point, they moved back here to Idaho, or moved to Idaho, and they started a small publishing company. And you'll hear testimony that the publishing company was predominantly run by Tammy. Tammy managed it. Tammy was the brains behind the company. And Tammy basically took the reins and did everything that was necessary to move this publishing company. It was a small publishing company, a very small publishing company. And what they did is basically publish books. Chad would write these books. And he would write these books about his religious experiences. In his faith, he had certain beliefs, the faith that he practiced. You know, when he went on his mission, when he read his interpretation of the books that he used for his faith, he started writing books about things that were consistent with his faith. Things like premonitions. We've all heard of premonitions, about being able to predict things, about being able to see maybe when things happen. And some people believe in that, some people don't. Some people have personally experienced that, or I've been here before. But he writes about his premonitions. He writes about good and evil, and what it means to be good, and what it means to be evil. He writes about dark and light. He writes about subjects that are a little darker, like death, and maybe the coming of the end of things, and when his Savior in his mind is going to come back, and maybe there'll be some kind of a redemption of some sort. But his books covered a lot of subjects like that, and they were all based on fiction. In other words, he was writing these books about theories and things that came into his head, and he would write these stories. But he also wrote children's books, and he wrote books for teenagers, and he wrote these books about adventures and then some crazy ideas about things that kids and teenagers get involved in. In about October of 2018, Chad was going out, and he was invited by one of the witnesses that you'll hear in this case to speak about his books. And this was not uncommon. He would travel, and he would be asked to say, well, come and talk about some of the things that you believe in. You've talked about these premonitions, some life experiences. You're going to hear testimony about that. And he was invited on one particular occasion in late October. And he attended this, and while he was there trying to sell his books, and like most of us who are business people, the focus of these meetings really was for Chad to try to get his books published, because that's how he made a living. And he was there in one of his booths trying to promote his books, and he laid them out there. And this beautifully stunning woman named Lori Vallow comes up, and she starts giving him a lot of attention. And she pursued him, and she encouraged him. And you'll hear testimony that she went so far as to grab behind the booth and sort of help him in trying to sell some of his books. She obviously had an interest, and maybe she felt that he was this publisher, or maybe she had an opinion. You'll hear testimony about that. And then after the seminar, there was a length of time where there was no contact between the two of them, a month and a half, 2 months. And during that time, Chad Daybell went on his day-to-day life. He'd been married to Tammy for some 29 years, has no remarkable background of any kind. I think the testimony we'll offer will show he had a speeding ticket in 2005. But Lori Vallow was a different story. Lori Vallow was someone who, right out of high school, married her first husband. You'll hear testimony about this. That marriage was very short-lived, very short-lived. She then married husband number 2 a few years later. And again, very short-lived marriage. And there's some testimony indication that there were some problems with the marriage that caused the breakup. But the theme seems to be that Lori's brother Alex, and you're going to hear about Alex Cox. Alex Cox was Lori's protector. Alex Cox would do anything and everything to protect, aid, and assist Lori Vallow in whatever her endeavors, without unbridled question, anything. And if Alex Cox even perceived that there was a problem, Alex Cox reacted. You're going to hear testimony that in 2007, I believe it was in August of 2007, Lori Vallow had finished up going through her third marriage with Joseph Bryan. It was a tumultuous, you'll hear testimony that it was a tumultuous marriage, a terrible marriage. And Lori Vallow made accusations against Joseph Bryan of abusing their child Tylee. Yes, the same Tylee. And during one of the visits in 2007, folks, I want to tell you, you're going to hear testimony that in 2007, Chad Daybell didn't even know Lori Vallow existed. But Alex Cox, after one of the exchanges and the visitations with Tylee, Alex Cox approached Joseph Bryan and shot him with a taser and assaulted him. Was eventually charged with aggravated assault, was eventually put in jail, and had this on his record. And there was representation, the facts would suggest that at the time Joseph Bryan feared for his life. This was a serious situation. But it set the pattern for what we're dealing with Alex Cox. Whenever there was a problem or a threat to Lori Vallow, you'll hear testimony that Alex Cox came to the rescue. But Alex Cox would run without even question and do whatever was necessary to solve Lori Vallow's problems. We're going to fast forward then to 2019. Lori Vallow is still married to Charles Vallow. And the prosecuting attorney mentioned this. Yes, Chad Daybell at that point was coming in January, February, started to have communications with Lori Vallow. And yes, folks, it turned into an inappropriate relationship. 2019 and forward. And yes, he was engaging in discussions. He was engaging in contact with her, all of the things that the prosecutor talked about in terms of a relationship. But subsequent to the seriousness of this relationship getting rolling, Alex Cox was at a visitation in 2019 with Charles Vallow. And Lori Vallow was there, Tyree Ryan was there, JJ was there. They were all present. And during that altercation and that supposed visit, much like with Joseph Ryan, Alex Cox took out a gun and shot Charles Vallow. And then after calling 911, he then finished the job and walked up to him at close range, finished him off. Now, you're going to hear testimony that in some way Chad Daybell was implicated in that, and you're going to hear further testimony that he was not. You're going to hear testimony and see documentation that suggests that the prosecuting attorney on review of this indicated that there was no likelihood of conviction of Chad Daybell. You'll hear testimony that Chad Daybell had nothing to do with the execution by Alex Cox, Charles Vallow. And the same for Brandon Boudreaux. You will hear that Chad Daybell is not being pursued for any involvement in the Brandon Boudreaux attempted murder. Those occurred, and those are separate, as well as the Charles Vallow. So what we have is we have a situation where someone who's 29 years old, Chad Daybell, 29 years of marriage with Tammy Daybell, no discernible issues in his life. And then Lori Vallow comes in the picture, Miss Texas. You'll hear testimony about this beautiful, vivacious woman, very sexual person, and very manipulative. And she knows how to get what she wants. And she drew Chad Daybell into a relationship, and an unfortunate relationship, that Chad fell into. After that, things started rolling, and issues started happening, but eventually, yes, there was a murder, and there was a burial. And you've heard discussion about the backyard of Chad Daybell. Well, we have a 4.5 acre farm in Fremont County, Idaho. And you'll hear testimony that the body of J.J. Vallow was discovered behind an irrigation pond and a tree out in the pasture. So technically, yes, maybe the backyard, but more accurately described as the pasture, hidden behind a tree. You're going to hear testimony that also in the middle of this pasture was a raspberry patch, former raspberry patch, that was then turned into a place for them to bury the cats, the dogs, and all of the animals on the farm. Okay? Again, out in the pasture of the field and not the backyard. You hear testimony about that. You're going to hear from 4 experts that I'm going to bring forward. And these 4 experts, the first one is going to be Dr. Greg Hampikian. And Dr. Hampikian is a bit of a notable local from Boise State University. And Dr. Hampikian is a DNA expert, considered one of the best DNA experts. He's been involved and has significant work that he's done on both the defense and for the prosecution. He was involved and led the team with Amanda Knox in Italy that got her exonerated because of the DNA evidence. He has substantial experience. And anybody or anyone who knows anything about DNA goes to Dr. Hampikian first, because he is the guy. And Dr. Hampikian is going to talk a little bit about the DNA evidence that's found on the scene. Dr. Hampikian is going to talk about the fingerprint on the plastic that J.J. Vallow was discovered in, was that of Alex Cox. Dr. Hampikian is going to talk about the hair sample that was found on the plastic of Alex Cox, and that it was Lori Vallow. Dr. Hampikian is going to talk about several, and I mean several other hairs that were found on the plastic of J.J. Vallow. But he's also going to say that there was no DNA evidence, no hair sample of Chad Daybell on Tylee Ryan or on J.J. Vallow. You're then going to hear from Dr. Raven. And Dr. Raven is a forensic pathologist. And she's going to talk a little bit about circumstances surrounding Tammy Daybell. And what Dr. Raven is going to say is that there's no indication that this is either a homicide or any other crime, and that the only conclusion she could come to is you can't determine what the cause of death was. There's no way to determine it. Tammy Daybell was buried. You'll hear testimony about that. And then a short time later, the police officer showed up and they dug her body up after she'd been buried, after she was laid to rest, and then continued after the body was pulled out of the ground and continued to examine it for whatever they were looking for. And what you're going to find is based on that, Dr. Raven's going to say you can't determine what the cause of death is. You're going to hear testimony from the Daybell children, from the children themselves. 4 of the 5 children, I think, three or 4 of the 5 children are giving testimony. They're going to talk about their mother's health struggles. They're going to talk about their mother's use of various medicinal treatments that she would use, oils that she would put on her leg, medicine and different herbs that she would take, and that their mother was suffering from a number of maladies, and that she would refuse to go see a doctor or get it treated. And Dr. Raven's going to enlighten you a little bit about some of the circumstances regarding Tammy Daybell. You're then going to hear from Patrick Eller. He's a forensic digital data examiner. And Patrick Eller is someone who has spent his life in the military working for various agencies, and we'll talk a little bit about that, within the government to do data retrieval and data research. And he's going to talk a little bit about the phone records that are involved in this case. He's going to specifically talk about the travels of Alex Cox, because you are going to hear testimony that Alex Cox went to Chad Daybell's property on the 9th of September. You're going to hear that Alex Cox approached Chad Daybell's property a half a dozen other, 5 or 6 other times. You're going to hear testimony that Alex Cox was there on the 23rd. And you're going to hear where Alex Cox was in a number of other times and places in his whereabouts and his travels for about a 2.5 month period. And Patrick is going to, offer you some information and data to support all of that. And finally, you're going to hear from a forensic anthropologist, and his name's Eric Bartlett. And Mr. Bartlett is going to talk to you a little bit about the nature and the nature of how the remains of Tylee were burned. Eric Bartlett is going to talk to you a little bit about the lack of complete skeletal remains and why, when Tylee was dug down the ground, there was not a complete set of skeletal remains. In fact, there were a number of pieces of that were missing. You're going to hear a lot of evidence, and the judge has talked to us a little bit about not making a decision until you hear all of the evidence. And there's a specific jury instruction that talks about that. The jury instruction is, consider all the evidence. Listen to the instructions from the court on how you're to proceed. Listen to the arguments of the prosecuting attorney and the defense, and then and only then do you make your decision. And at the conclusion of all that evidence, and at the conclusion of the judge's instructions, the arguments of both of the defense attorneys, I'm going to ask you folks to return a verdict not guilty. Thank you, folks. Thank you for your time.
Okay, I have so much to say about that. Now, listen. I understand that the property that they're talking about where JJ and Tylee were located is not like your average backyard, okay? It isn't like my backyard, for example, okay? Or probably any of y'all's unless you're on some land, okay? So I get his point. But even if I take that into consideration, what was done to Tylee had to have been done somewhere, and it couldn't have been somewhere that was small, because you would have had witnesses. Okay, that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is JJ. The way that he was buried was very elaborate. And I mean, we know from Lori's trial, we don't have to get into the nitty gritty because it's coming. And the fact of the matter is, as much as he's trying to make it seem as if there was that Alex could have gotten onto the property and done all of these things, and that Chad wouldn't be aware of it, blah, 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 blah. Well, then riddle me this, Mr. Pryor. If Chad wouldn't have been aware of any dirt being disturbed in that location because it was so far away, how come he felt the need to text Tammy about a raccoon and burying a raccoon? Now, you know damn right well that the FBI and everybody that was out there recovering those children tried to, they never found a raccoon. Let's just stop. Don't play with us, Pryor. Like, that was really lame. I can't even believe you decided to do that. You know, and he is correct. We know from Lori's trial that hairs were found on JJ. We know exactly who those hairs were compared with, and we know whose hairs those matched, which is Lori. So it's ridiculous on its face. And I'm with you, Gen X girl. It is, I don't know if I would say, I don't understand it. I really don't. I don't know. Sickens me is, I don't know if I feel quite sick. I'm not exactly sure like how I feel about it, about how his kids feel. I have tried so hard to give them grace because I can't imagine what a conundrum and a predicament this must be for them. And I cannot really put myself in their shoes because the closest thing that I have to picking a side between my parents was when they divorced, and I was way into an adult. I was 30. So, yeah, 30. And I tried to remain neutral for a number of years. And in the end, when I lost my mom, I saw things much more clearly. So I took a different stance, but that's as close as I can come. And that's not even the same thing. It's nowhere in the vicinity of the same thing. So I tried really, really hard to try to put myself in their shoes, and I can't get it. I can't get there. I just can't. I'm very interested in what they have to say on the stand. Yes, Music City Mom. I told you, I don't know if you saw in Allie's chat today. I said I got the message. And that I'm so glad for your offer to help, and that the next time you came into chat, you would be blue. And now here we are. So yay. You're right, Lil Red. They are in the position that Harley was in. He made fools out of his children. He did. You can buy his book. It's for sale. You can buy it. So yeah, I don't understand this argument. I really don't. Is this the rebuttal? Hold on, let me see. Hold on.
Information regarding children.
Yes, it did.
How?
No, they went right into witness testimony. Now, the first witness that they put on the stand is Detective Hermosillo from the Rexburg Police Department. Oh, you're well. No, thank you, Music City Mom. Thank you for offering to help. Basically, this was a little contentious testimony. Not really. It shouldn't have been. It was pretty straightforward. Basically, this detective was the detective that was put in charge of doing the welfare visit, the welfare check on JJ and Tylee. And Pryor does a whole lot of objections and calling it hearsay, except for the fact that he's not testifying to what somebody told him. He was testifying to what he said to somebody else, which is not hearsay. And so it basically Pryor was doing it. And at first Pryor, it was just like ridiculous. He was just doing it to interrupt the flow of questioning. And I mean, it's a tactic. It's not one that I really agree with that much, but when you have nothing, you got to do what you have to do. And then after that, let me see. Let me scroll. He's on the stand for a while. There's lunch. Lunch is when I dipped out, and then I didn't come back after that because I got distracted with something else. Wait, hold on. I can't see what this says. Hold on. The sidebar.
Have states a good and it's actually, would you be able to update?
Oh, it's still the detective. I think that's the only person that really testified today. And I don't think there was a whole lot of information like that's new or anything. They're gonna, this is gonna be methodical. They're gonna lay the groundwork. Corky says, at first I could understand the kids not wanting to believe their dad did this. But after everything that has come out, I don't understand how they can continue to support him. I feel sad for Tammy. I would encourage you guys to go over to Hidden True Crime. They did an interview with Chad Daybell's sister-in-law. And it was very, very insightful. It gave because the sister-in-law, and for the life of me right now, I cannot remember her name. It will come to me. But the reason I encourage you to go watch that is because normally what can a sister-in-law really testify to, right? Usually, you meet in college or whatever, you're older when you meet and you're older when you start dating. And so how can they really know that much? I mean, you can obviously, like, if I were to talk, like, God forbid, if I had to say something about my sister-in-law, for whatever reason, and I was on a podcast, which I would never do that, but whatever, let's just say for argument's sake, I was. I've been with my husband since I was 18 and I'm 47 now. So that's probably not a good example, but I mean, even I know the dynamics. It's sort of like that. She and Chad's brother got together when they were like in middle school, high school time. They've known each other their whole lives, right? For a long, long time. But she really got a glimpse into the inner workings of the family from a very young age. And her interview on the dynamics in the family, in the Daybell family, meaning Chad, his siblings, and his mother and his father, is extremely insightful. And it gives you a better understanding because she also obviously knows about Chad's children. She also gives very, very good insight, as much as she can, into thank you, Lil Red. Yes, Summer. She also gives as much insight as she can into, from what she saw and what she knew and experienced, into Chad and Tammy's marriage, into their dynamic and what she saw. No. Heather, you're right. Wait. Is it Summer? No. It's Heather. It's Heather. You're right. It's Heather. Not Summer. Summer is somebody else. But yeah, her interview it's really well done, and they asked really good questions. She's very likable, very, very affable. She speaks well. She is exactly quirky. That's exactly right. Yes, Summer is Lori's sister, and Corky is correct. She did not want Chad and Tammy moving to Rexburg in their same ward. That's right. And but it's Heather. Anyway, and the thing is, she explains why, and she really doesn't. Hey, Blanca, or is that? I think that's, yes, Blanca. I thought it was Bianca at first. There was a glare on onion fix my monitor. Anyway, she talks a lot about that the whole family dynamic and you know, what she saw and all the things, and she does a really good job. So it's an interesting interview, and so I would encourage everybody to watch it because it does give really good insight, and I probably will watch it again because I want to remember the things, and I'll take notes and stuff because I know I took notes before, but I don't know what I did with them. So I think that's kind of going to be all I have for tonight as far as the first day goes for witness testimony. I'm going to watch more of Detective Hermosillo and or how did they say it? And maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. But anyway, because I know he talks about some stuff that I want to know about, but I've already kept you guys here till 10:30 on a school night, and I don't want to do that. So I'm gonna keep y'all too late. But we'll go over more of this tomorrow. Also, a little bit tomorrow too. It's going to be a couple of things we're going to talk about. We're not just going to talk about Chad. I want to talk about this hearing that took place today in the Idaho 4 case. There was a hearing about the jury survey. The state had some objections to the way that it was being conducted. And there were some fireworks in the courtroom last week over this. And then this was the hearing. And so I'm curious about, I want to see how it happened. She did say that, Carolina. She did say that. She did say that. So it was a good interview. It was an interesting interview. But anyway, I want to see what the end result was from that, because Ann Taylor, when they were just talking about this subject matter last week, she offended the judge. And in my opinion, the way that she worded it was on her part poor. But what she said was she felt that the ruling that the judge had made, which was to halt the process of a survey in the of potential jurors, was compromising due process, and that is a huge, very serious accusation to make against an officer of the court, but particularly a judge, because the judge is the overseer of the due process. And he was very offended by that. And so it was very, there was some contentious arguments made back and forth. And but anyway, I'm curious to see what the end result was, and I haven't had a chance to watch it because I've been doing all the things that I need to be doing. Plus, I have to adult too, you know. So I got like chores and stuff around the house that I have to take care of. It's starting to get nice outside, and it's been, I don't know, is it windy where you guys are? It was super windy today here, and when it gets windy like that, the palm fronds fall, and then they fall in the yard, and they fall on the top of the house, and you got to clean them off. It's a thing. I mean, listen, I'm not complaining. I love the weather here, so I'm not complaining. It's just, one of those things you got to do as an adult. It's very annoying. I can't remember who was in the chat that said it, but adulthood is literally like the worst hood they've ever been in. It's so ghetto, and the truer words were never spoken. So I'm really interested to see how this trial is going to go. I can tell you that just a little bit of what I watched as far as witness testimony today goes, Pryor is much more quick to object and argue, and he's just a different type of lawyer than Lori's defense was, and I find that to be interesting. And I also have to agree with you. Lil Red says they need to do a bench trial. Let the judge decide. They can't get a jury now on Idaho. And I think that I think you're right that it's going to be very difficult. But I think that I don't know that Kohberger would, in this case. I don't know. I have to think about that, because a bench trial, this probably would be ideal for a bench trial because of the circumstances where you need like somebody that's used to hearing the kind of evidence that's going to be testified to in that trial, and jurors are not. And that trial, I think, is going to be a very emotional trial. I think all trials on some level are emotional, but when it is a crime that's as gruesome as that one is, and the people that are the victims of the crime were young people who were going about their daily lives. I mean, for fuck's sake, they were going to bed. It's I think that maybe there's going to be the potential for, I think if I were Kohberger's defense, I would be worried that there would be the potential for an emotional verdict rather than an actual, an evidence-based verdict. And so maybe it's better. I don't know. I'll have to see about it. So I'm going to watch that today and see what happens and be ready to have better opinions on it tomorrow. I'm really rusty going live about something that's not Letitia, and that is really embarrassing for me. So I need to really, really brush up and get my streaming skills back, because bruh. But anyway, I want to thank you guys all for being here. If you haven't done so, give your girl a thumbs up on the stream or a thumbs down. Interaction either way. It helps keep me in the algorithm, and keeping your girl in the algorithm will help your girl get noticed and get you guys notifications. It's not you help your girl get noticed. It's help for you guys to get notifications. I noticed the other day, I was scrolling YouTube and I was logged into the Dose of Reality account, and I got a notification for the George Wagner trial short that I did. How long ago was that trial? And how long ago did I do that short? And it just came up in the algorithm. It's weird. So it does help with the algorithm. The more subscribers you have, and the likes and stuff, because YouTube pays attention to that. And I would like to say thank you to everybody, because today I hit 8,500 subscribers, and I am so happy, so grateful for you guys. I absolutely am 11 billion% couldn't have done it without you guys. You guys sharing me out, you guys coming and supporting me. I cannot thank you guys enough, and I appreciate you guys so much. And with that, I will bid you a fond farewell, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And thank you guys for being here. Have a great rest of your Monday. Bye.